The healing brush in Photoshop offers more control than the spot healing brush because you can choose where to sample the image data from, which is often very important when you're removing objects from a scene. Let's check out how this tool works. In order to keep my retouching on a separate layer, I'm going to make a copy of the background layer by using the shortcut of Command-J on a Mac or Control-J on Windows. I'm also going to zoom in for a closer view by getting the zoom tool and clicking a few times in the image just so I can see this man in the background a little bit better. I'm going to come to the toolbar and get the healing brush tool. And the first thing I'm going to do is make my brush size a bit smaller by tapping a couple of times on the left bracket key on the keyboard. Next, I'm going to define an area where I want Photoshop to copy detail from by holding down the Option key on a Mac or the Alt key on Windows. And I'm just going to click on the edge between this brush area and the sandy colored hillside. Option or Alt click there, and then come over, line this up, and just start painting in there to remove that person. And it's doing a pretty good job. In some cases, the fact that that person was so much darker than the area around it might have caused some problems, but I'll show you how to address those when we remove the person in the foreground. So, apropos that, let me hold down the space bar to get the grabber hand, and let me move the image over so we can see that person in the foreground. And let me make the brush size a little bit larger for the healing brush tool. I'll tap on the right bracket key several times to get a bigger brush. And I'm going to hold down the Option key on Mac or the Alt key on Windows and sample from the path. Clicking there to sample on the path. Then I'll bring this over, line up the path, and start painting over the person. And here you can see how the color from the person's blue jeans is bleeding through into the area that's being retouched. Because what the healing brush is doing is it is copying the detail, but it is preserving some of the color and brightness from the area that's being covered up. So that's not going to work here, so I'm going to undo that by choosing Command-Z or Control-Z. And let me show you an interesting little technique that can sometimes help with situations like this. I'm going to come over to the toolbar and get the brush tool. And with the brush tool active, I can hold down the Option key on Mac or the Alt key on Windows and get the eyedropper tool, and I can click to sample color from within the actual image. And that color is placed down here in the foreground color swatch in the bottom of the toolbar. And now with that color there, I can just paint that over the person here. And let me come over to the other side, Option click to sample some other color over here. And even though this looks, really bad and flat color, not photographic at all, when I come back over this with the healing brush tool, it's going to work out very well to make a much better blend where the color of that person's clothing is not coming through and bleeding through the image details that I am copying with the healing brush. So, that looks good for now. Let me switch to the healing brush. I'm going to tap J, and I'm going to Option or Alt click on the path again to copy that, come over, line this path up, and then just start bringing this over and copying good image detail over those areas where I have added actual color from the image. Make my healing brush a little bit smaller and come in here, Option click in some other areas just to make sure I'm not copying the same detail over and over again. And this is actually working out pretty well. Let's come down to the bottom part here and blend that in. And so you can see that this is a nice solution for those times when the healing brush wants to blend in color from the area you're covering up, but it's just not really working with the detail. Let me press Command-0 to go back and fit the image on screen, and that's looking pretty good. For retouching where you need the content-aware functionality of the spot healing brush, but you require more control over what parts of the image are sampled, the healing brush can often provide excellent retouching capabilities for removing objects from a photo.